The first component of building a strong fitness foundation involves working on your joint mobility, which is also called the joint range of motion. So unless you start working on your joint range of motion, there are good chances that your joint is stiff and tight, not moving to the good range of motion, or known as the complete range of motion in the joint, which can result and increase the load on the joint and eventually on the muscles which are overlying the joints. So it's very important before you start working on the muscles, which is like working on the muscle strength or muscle flexibility. First, you start working on the motion of the joint. First, get the range of motion of the joint well. Once the joint range of motion becomes complete and you have a good freedom of motion in the joint, there are good chances that the load that is going to the joint or the muscle will be much lesser, and there are good chances that you can prevent the injuries to happen on a long run. I will give you an example of this to make you understand this well. The first thing is, consider like you want to do squats. The squat happens at 3 joints. So it's happening at the hip joint, knee joint and ankle joint. So if you want to perform a good range of motion or good squat, it's important that you have a good freedom of motion at 3 joints, which is your ankle, hip and knees. Unless you have the range of motion in these joints well, there are good chances that when you go deeper into the squat position, you will land up using the mobility of the lower back. For example, if you're going in the deep squat position, where if your hip mobility is restricted, you'll start hunching and curling your upper back, mid back area, and eventually the lower back will go more into the hunch or the curve, which is called the C shape of the lower back. Also, when you go deeper into the squat position, if your ankle range of motion is not good, instead of keeping the position like slightly out, you'll not be able to maintain the position of the normal squat, and eventually once you go down into the deep squat position, your feet will turn out further, or you will have your heels coming off the floor. This is the typical compensation that you get to see in people who have the very tight ankle joints or the stiff calf muscle.